Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our weekly show, Security Scan. Now, this week we're going to talk about coastal security. The second edition of the biennial Pan-India Coastal Defence Exercise, Sea Vigil 21, conducted on 12th and 13th of January this week, has been successfully completed. Now, the exercise, inaugural edition of which was conducted in 2019, was undertaken along the entire 7,516.6 kilometer coastline, an exclusive economic zone of India, and involved all the 13 coastal states and union territories, along with other maritime stakeholders as well, including the fishing and coastal communities. So we're going to talk about not only this exercise, but also we're going to explore and understand why exactly is coastal security so important and what exactly has been done in the past few years to ensure that no breaches take place there. And to understand more on this particular aspect, we have with us our distinguished panel of guests. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Retired Commander Abhijit Singh, who is with us. He's head of the Maritime Policy Initiative in ORF. We are also joined by Mr. Anil Chaudhary, former Secretary Internal Security in the Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. And we also have Ajay Banerjee with us, Defence Correspondent of the Tribune. Welcome, all of you gentlemen, to Rajya Sabha Television. Let me begin with you, Abhijit, and let's start by understanding and giving a sort of an overview to our viewers as far as coastal security is concerned. What all consists of the coastal security infrastructure, and why is it so important for us?
Vishal, let me at the outset say that these exercises that got over yesterday, this was, I think, one of the biggest efforts in recent years to coordinate our coastal security endeavor. So, as you know, this is the second edition of the Sea Vigil exercises. This time, this was not just about maritime exercises, and certainly a lot of exercises would have been carried out in these 2 days. But this was also, I think, about testing the infrastructure, the NC3IM infrastructure, the critical nodes, and all of that. And so that, in that sense, I think what the focus of these exercises this time, I think, was really to test out the interagency cooperation, the communication networks, etc., to ensure that we have this sort of common operating picture across the maritime domain, across the littoral that surrounds our country. But I think the larger question or the larger issue that needs to be talked about really is the enormous progress that we have made since the 26/11 attacks in 2008, and I think in these 12 years, what we have really witnessed is a revolution in coastal security affairs, if we can put it that way. Mm-hmm. Right from the time that attack happened, the very year after that, we saw that there was this 3-tier grid that was established. The Marine Police on the innermost layer, followed by the Coast Guard, followed by the Navy. Beyond that, we had coastal radar stations that had been set up. AIS chains came up, the grid that was tested this time. The Coast Guard has been strengthened quite significantly. Just in the past 10 years, I think it has doubled its fleet of assets, and I think now, according to its vision, 2025 is looking at really developing a giant-sized fleet, almost 200 ships. Then you look at the joint operation centers that have come up and the manner in which just the IMAC, which is the Information Management and Analysis Center, how it is managing collating all the information, distributing the information, the infrastructure that has come up in terms of marine police stations, and also the fusion center that now has come up. Along with the IMAC, we're also talking about the fusion center, where we have radar stations in AIS chains set up in a number of countries in the Indian Ocean region, and how information from there also is coming in, and how we are sort of developing this common picture for the entire region. So I think what's happened is that we've made significant progress as far as coastal security is concerned. However, let me add a caveat here. 3 years back, I was part of a study that was gaming the maritime domain, and we found out that whilst we had made considerable progress, there were a few areas that were where we needed to make progress. Mm-hmm. And one was this thing about interagency cooperation. We realized that the information was not flowing as seamlessly as we would like it to. And secondly, the state government somehow remained a bit wary of contributing too much to the coastal security effort. This was still a Coast Guard, a Navy-led effort. And I think what's happened in the past 2 or 3 years since the time we carried out study, that we've seen a correction. We've seen a movement in the correct direction. I think now the states, there's an exercise that we call Sagar Kavach that happens quite often, in which a lot of these state governments take part, their police take part. And I think we are now getting to a place where we have been able to, in some ways, plug some of those gaps, even though I would note that some areas of concern still remain. Thank you.
Okay. We'll talk about those areas of concern there as well, but that's quite an apt sum up. Let me bring in Mr. Anil Chaudhary here as well. Mr. Chaudhary, all of us know that, as far as coastal areas and coastlines are concerned, they're susceptible to criminal activities and anti-national activities as well. And we saw, how 26/11 also happened through the coastal areas only when the terrorists did travel through boats there. So in a nutshell, if you look at the past and the present as well, and the way the infrastructure buildup has happened, how would you assess in terms of the work which has been done and the kind of infrastructure which is there and which is required?
Thank you, Vishal. It's very heartening to listen to Commander Abhijit Singh that a lot of work has been done. I'm aware of it. Well, my mind goes back to the 26/11, November 2008. I was sitting in office, National Technical Research Organization. We were totally shocked and aghast. The entire internal and national security apparatus in our company sat up in shock, deep shock, because, see, we were focused always on our land border with Pakistan. Border fencing, this, that, tunnel, this, that. Our soft underbelly was taken advantage of by the enemy. And they struck so hard and they got in so easily that 170 people were killed by 10 terrorists who came in a larger boat, got in flattened boats. 9 of these attackers were killed. Fortunately, thanks to one head constable of police, of Bombay Police, we were able to nab one alive. And despite Pakistan's initial denials, he came out and said, no, the entire plan was laid out in Pakistan and the launch was made. Now, since then, we have come a long way. That is a night when we didn't have even a strike force. The NSG commandos were flown in next morning, and the naval helicopters hovered around and went back without giving any inputs. Now, I'm told even in the state of Maharashtra, about 19 maritime police stations have come up. Not only come up, they are functional. There is also, there are twofold. One was the creation of police station, and there's biometric systems to monitor the movement. You see, a chain is as strong as its weakest link. And in my view, the weakest link in the coastal security are the fishing boats, the fishermen, who sail out and in and out. And they also took the guise of a fishing boat to come inside. But now I'm very happy to learn that each fishing boat has been given a distinctive RFID system, which keeps a track over them, and also a distress signal. See, now, to prevent attacks, the best way is to collect actionable tactical intelligence. Intelligence comes in 2 genres, human intelligence and technical intelligence. Here, the human intelligence can be provided by these fishermen who are on the sea. If they know what to look out for, they're briefed and debriefed by the operatives, intelligence operatives, they can come. The other thing is technology. Technology was non-existent at that time. A lot of technology has come up. There is image intelligence, there is telecom intelligence, and there's a lot of... See, now I think Commander Abhijit Singh hit the nail on the head. You see the coordination among agencies. There is definitely now three tier of security in place. first not 12 nautical miles, if I'm not mistaken, is the maritime police. Next 12 nautical miles is the Coast Guard and Customs. And beyond that is the Indian Navy. So, but then this calls for excellent ground level coordination, which I think depends on the initiative of the local commanders of the three components. You can sit in Delhi and say, we will set up this and we will set up that and all that on paper. But on the ground, what is happening? And politics also takes a toll. In Tamil Nadu, it is the fishermen going to fish in Sri Lanka side, Tamilian fishermen, they come back. No, they release them. In West Bengal, Bangladeshis come and go. So see, these are the compulsions or ground realities which we have to face. We cannot just feel happy that we got this boat and that boat. That's what I had to say. I'm not a maritime person, but I'm an internal security counterterrorism who knows a little bit about that. Thank you.
Okay, definitely. You're an expert on that aspect out there, and these two are very closely related when we talk about coastal security, something which was, rightly pointed out by both of you. Let me bring in Ajay Banerjee here as well. Ajay, you also kept a very close watch on not only exercises like Sea Vigil, but also the way this infrastructure buildup has happened over the years after 26/11, and the way both your co-panelists are pointing out here that there are certain areas wherein need to be a lot of focus, but in terms of infrastructure building, we've done a lot. We've come a long way.
Yes, Vishal, we have come a long way. If I remember correctly, when we started off in 2009 after the Mumbai attack, the first step was setting up a chain of coastal radars. The second was setting up automated information systems, identification systems, AIS transponders. Now, these are all along the coast. And by the way, I must inform your viewers, the second phase of the coastal radar, 36 of those is also coming up. So now these systems are being set up. We have set up a satellite called Rukmani up in the sky that keeps an eye on a vast area. Now, all these systems are in place. Now, how do you know that this works? That's the question of this exercise. Does this work? Navy and the Coast Guard keep on testing the system each time by sending in dummy ships. So is it being picked up or no? Is the coastal radar picking it up or no? Is somebody being informed or no? These are systems the Navy and the Coast Guard do. Now, on a larger scale, this exercise brings into focus that these systems work. As Commodore Abhijit pointed out, that the National Command and Control Center was tested in this. The IMAC, which is at Gurgaon, was tested in this. Now, this collates information, disseminates to various platforms. Those platforms are connected seamlessly. There may be a helicopter, there may be a submarine, there may be a warship, there may be a surveillance fixed in plane, or a ground station, say, in any of the coastal areas. Now, these areas have to respond to these inputs coming in from the collation centers. How quickly do they respond? How well do they respond? And is the response correct? These are things this exercise checks out. Now, this exercise is also a stepping stone to the next exercise called the TROPEX. Now, this will be part of a thing which is really saying that from peace to conflict. Keep in mind that the sea's 7,500 odd kilometers of coastline is vulnerable, and from peace to conflict means that China is also making its ports in Gwadar. Its assets are being stationed in Gwadar. It regularly patrols the Arabian Sea under the garb of anti-piracy patrols. Pakistan Navy is still fledgling, but Chinese Navy is a threat. And from peace to conflict, when it happens in TROPEX, stepping stone to the Sea Vigil will actually test the system and tell us how good where we are and where do we stand. This was just the second edition of the Sea Vigil. The TROPEX is an ongoing exercise which will incorporate all the inputs of the Sea Vigil and carry out a maximum operational tempo which will lay down where do we stand. Vishal?
Okay, definitely. There is a lot to learn as far as exercises are concerned, and there is a motive, there's a reason, logic behind conducting these exercises to try and test your preparedness. It brings me back to Commander Abhijit here. Commander Abhijit, as you're pointing out earlier, and a point which was, also initiated further by Mr. Chowdhury as well, in terms of the inter-agency cooperation. Also, Mr. Chowdhury pointed out that another key segment, of this entire apparatus is the local community, the fishermen are there as well. So it's not only about having the infrastructure from a security perspective, but also involving the local community there, because that is where the key segment here is, and also that impeccable coordination between coastal and the offshore security elements.
That is a very relevant point, Vishal, I have to say. Coastal security generally is really about the 3 C's, as they say. You need cover, you need effective communication, and you need coordination between all of these, agencies, as has been pointed out. But the important thing is this, that it's actually not 3 C's, but it is a 3CI, which also means intelligence. And in the case of intelligence, human intelligence is critical. And so, as Mr. Chaudhary was pointing out, you see what happened after the 2008 attacks, and actually a few years after that, is that we began to co-opt the fishing community. So we said that the fishing community will be the ears and eyes of the security agencies. We began to install AIS systems on the boats. Now there's RFIDs, of course, transponders, etc. But there's a problem there. The problem is that a lot of these fishermen are actually reluctant to install some of this equipment on their boats. And that's because what happens is that some of these fishermen on occasions are getting into areas that they shouldn't be getting into. They think that the authorities are keeping an eye on what they are doing at sea. So the coastal community leaders are sometimes not very keen, especially in Maharashtra, to be, co-opted as eyes and ears of the security agencies. Mm-hmm. So that's one issue. The second issue, which is really more important, is that you see, in recent years, there has been this endeavor on the part of state governments to somehow divert this responsibility to the central government. So there has been a proposal a few years back, there was a proposal that let's make a central marine police force. Now that, according to a lot of practitioners that I spoke with when I did the study 2 or 3 years back, is not such a good proposal. Because you see, the state police has a great hold over these coastal communities. Mm-hmm. And the state police has great intelligence, sources in these coastal communities. They speak the local language. They know how exactly to get information out of these people. So it's very important to have the state police as a part of the apparatus. If the state police opts out of this, there's no way a central agency is really going to be, able to do the coastal security job. The second more important reason is that, there are powers, legal powers of investigation, of lodging, complaints, etc. That, FIRs, etc., that the state government has. Now, apparently, this is at least as far as I understood, is that this central agency is really not being given those legal powers. And without legal powers, this will really be an agency without any teeth. So that's another area. The third area, if I can just quickly finish here, is port security. Our focus is on the seas. We are wanting to sort of, sanitize the seas. But really, in the past few years, what we've seen, especially in ports in Africa, as also in Pakistan, that the terrorists don't hit port, don't use the sea route. They will somehow come onto land and attack ports. And therefore, that means that you need good measures in the ports to make sure that there is no ingress happening into the ports. But, again, that study told us that out of about 227 odd minor ports, at least 180 didn't have the basic security systems in place. There were no scanners, no X-ray machines, etc. And that meant no radiation systems. That meant that anyone can get inside. You have these huge containers. Someone can come into those containers. So port security really is something that's very important. So I think that there are 2 or 3 of these areas that we need to look at. Also, we need to get over this obsession of marine terrorism or maritime terrorism. Terrorism is in its place. It's important. But there more than terrorism, what we have seen in recent years is, issues of armed robbery. Mm-hmm. There's illegal fishing that is happening off the coast of Orissa, the Andaman and Nicobar, drug trafficking in Gujarat. A lot of these areas also need to be looked into. We've got to get over this obsession with just terrorism.
Okay. Definitely. The offshore security element, as I was saying earlier, Commander Abhijit is also reiterating that is a very important segment out there. Mr. Chaudhary, let me have a quick concluding comment from you and Ajay there as well on the way forward from here, specifically from you in terms of the intelligence part, because you earlier initiated how well, and Abhijit also mentioned in terms of, ensuring that the intelligence sharing or the interagency cooperation as far as ground intelligence is concerned has to be really impeccable.
Vishal, thank you. I entirely agree with Commodore Abhijit Singh's 2 points made. Very relevant. Number one, that the intelligence gathering and maritime policing cannot be taken up by a central agency. You see, policing is a state subject under our constitution, and the ears on and eyes on the ground belong to the police, local police. A central agency will become like the Railway Protection Force, which keeps going up and down. But when a crime takes place, it is the government railway police which comes in and investigates. So I think it's a good point he made. Other point he made was about this fishermen. Yes, human intelligence is important, but again, it's easier for the local maritime police to reach out to the fishermen than the Indian naval officers or even the coast guards. See, they know them, where they live, how they are living, and they can speak the language, as he correctly pointed out. So I think intelligence generation, technical intelligence certainly is very, very important. Image intelligence, if he's saying we can get satellite imagery, we can get radars, we have speed boats now. I'm aware that there are exercises taking place on the ground. One, I believe, is called Sajag. It's held every month. The every other one is called Sagar Kavach, which is held biennial. You see, but success of these exercises lies in coordination among the three agencies, very correctly pointed out by Mr. Abhijit Singh. But I'm happy to know that we've come a very long way since the 26/11 happened. We hope that it never happens again, and each agency plays its role to the hilt without worrying about the turf wars and no, this is my territory, that is your territory, and all that. So that's the way. Thank you very much, Vishal.
Okay, definitely the interagency cooperation is really important there, and also ensuring that we learn from our mistakes and obviously from these exercises as well. Quick concluding comments from you as well, Ajay, before we bring this discussion to an end in terms of the way forward from here, because there is a lot which we have learned, there is a lot which we have done, but there is always a scope for improvement.
Vishal, I learned that the second phase of the coastal radar, 36 of those, including some of those on the island territories of ours, will be completed by this year end or early 2022. Now, once these radars are there and the AIS chain of transponders is ready and done, we have to be looking outwards towards territories in the Indian Ocean. We have some arrangements with them. We have a white shipping agreement that, to explain to our viewers, means that we can collect data about white shipping, means the trade shipping, oil cargoes, and other critical cargoes of all countries transiting the Indian Ocean. Now, that will be very vital. We will be collating those under a white shipping agreement, and that white shipping agreement, Vishal, is with countries as varied as those in the Middle East, which we call, and also the Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam. Now, this information will be at the fingertips of Indian Navy. Some of the leading countries have posted their officers out here as part of a coalition aspect, and which includes a U.S. officer who is based in India at the moment for cooperation. And we also have stationed our officers in the Indo-Pacific for cooperation. Once we have this second chain of radars ready, I think the picture will be complete to our planners, of the security strategists, and also the Indian Navy, which leads the vigilant sea. Once that is done, I suppose that we will be very safe and secure. And I will agree with Commodore Abhijit that we have to come out of this marine terrorism thing and focus on other things like gun running, armed dacoity, piracy, and a lot of smuggling actually, which is taking place in terms of illegal fishing of our waters, which is not being done properly. I believe so, Vishal.
Okay, definitely these all steps will further add to that infrastructure capability which we are building up. Thank you so much, Ajay Banerjee, Mr. Anil Chaudhary, as well as Abhijit there for sharing your views with us and our viewers. There it is, all about the aspect of coastal security, need to enhance measures there, and also the way we have built up on our infrastructure. We'll come back again next week with a different topic. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha Television. Thank you.